And
Scientology.
And while you were there, were you under the impression that you know that you were operating as part of a business, or were you still very much of the belief then this is a lifestyle, this is something that I do now?
It's like this. While we knew all about the religious trappings, most of us, but it's not religion. It's more of a. We consider it to be a political movement because it has political ideals, very, very specific political ideals. I worked in a lot of capacities there, a lot of it normal stuff. I learned graphic design in there because I was doing magazine layouts, and I learned computer networking. I went around installing financial computer systems around the world, all kinds of wild stuff, well, actually, sorry, I would say wild, very normal stuff, very mundane stuff. The wild stuff was the...
but it really sounds bizarre that you're talking about it as if, it's a career development path that you were on.
You got it.
Yeah.
But you see, and that's part of what is taught to you. But then and because you're so wrapped up in it, you work on these things dedicated to it. There was very, very often I would go for a week without sleep. Yeah. This was very, very common in order to get, say, jobs done. It was that important. You had to make things go right. But you have to realize that we were in the C organization. Often we were just on £5 a week. A really, really good week's pay in the C org was 50 quid.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a lot of money.
No.
You're living communally. You've got people looking over your shoulder and looking at your head all the goddamn time.
Right.
And it's a heck of a lifestyle. And the readjustment after it has been tremendously difficult.
And just a final question before we get, I suppose, to the the exit is when it came to that, in terms of the motivation that you'd have. Obviously, enough the motivation wouldn't be financial. You knew yourself, as you mentioned, that it wasn't really sort of a religious thing. Was the motivation purely this is a movement and this is I'm doing the right thing?
Okay, here's a couple of really important hooks in Scientology. First of all, you believe in the subject, right? You also believe that you were taught to believe. In fact, the part of the counselling gets you to remember past lifetimes.
Yeah.
So you view yourself not as this full entity of like body plus mind plus here I am, right? You view yourself as actually a separate spiritual entity to your body.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be, you actually, Hubbard describes it as you operate your body from the back of your head. And so you really visualize this. And that if your body dies, you go into hospital and you pick up a baby's body. That's what it's called.
Yes,
And if you die, it's called dropping the body. It's not called dying.
Yes, yeah.
So you know that it's really important for you to do Scientology and make yourself better, because next lifetime you might come back as, look, I don't want to shock people here, but Scientology's got a couple of, Hubbard hated homosexuals.
Yeah,
he hated psychiatrists and journalists and disabled people and mentally, he lumped all these people under one thing. He hated he hated communists, right? So he lumped all these people under a lump of people that he would eliminate once he establishes the New World Order.
Right. So
he's come back now, apparently. So the idea is that he's come back. He's got a new body. He's working in politics now.
Yeah.
And he actually says in one of the documents that he's the Antichrist in one of the upper documents.
Right. And
anyway,
when it came to obviously 22 years, and you've mentioned that already, and you something obviously made you decide, yes, this is not for me. I need to be somewhere else.
It was materials like that I just mentioned. I happened to be faced up for the first time ever with the real world, right?
Yeah.
I was up in the Lozelles in Birmingham. There was riots there between the Muslims and Afro-Caribbean groups there. I had this feeling I have to do something. Right, I'm part of a church. We should reach out there and do something, right? And I actually got very involved in those communities. But me personally, but representing the church in some cases not. Sometimes I just said it was me personally.
Yeah.
And my God, those people opened my eyes.
Yeah.
I was working with Muslim youth groups, beautiful, wonderful people, and Afro-Caribbean after-school clubs and youth groups, and and I saw these distinct people and said they're really wonderful people, yet these are wogs in Hubbard's terms. So a non-Scientologist is a wog. And he's saying, hang on a sec, he's saying these people are just these lower people. Why am I better than these people? And I began to look, and then I began looking on the internet, which you're banned from doing, by the way, in Scientology. You're not allowed to.
Right.
And I saw the truth of what Scientology was, and I said, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
And
And you did, and then very brief question is now obviously enough. For you're here a couple of years later. You know the book has been written. The readjustment
is huge. I mean, really, look, I didn't know how to shop when I got out. Okay, I didn't have any cultural cues. If you know, I didn't know, like I don't know whatever, who Tommy Tiernan. So someone could say Tommy Tiernan. Oh yeah, I saw Tommy Tiernan. I didn't know who Tommy Tiernan was. You know, I didn't know who Bertie Ahern was. I mean, really, it's a huge adjustment to life. I went through a period of, I was very, very close to suicide.
Yeah.
And I got, it was that bad because I just didn't know how to readjust.
You can, how frightening just simple life might be in a situation like that. Well, the book itself really is well worth the read. It's called The Complex, an insider exposes the covert world of the Church of Scientology. John Duignan, thanks a lot for joining us in the studio today.
My pleasure.
To get your views on that, you can text them in 083 311 1052. A couple of texts that have come in the last while. Alan Pimlico says, I got collared by a smiling youth on Middle Abbey Street trying to get me to take their personality test. It's the Scientologist. Having just learned about Scientology in school, I told him my thetans and I were going to get along just fine. If he didn't go away, I'd make it my business to find and unlock Zenu from his prison under the Pyrenees. His expression was priceless. Take that, Tom Cruise.